show? 10:10. I'm on time. How about that, you know? Normally it looks like 2:70 back there. We got Marsie Geldert-Murphey, and she's a candidate on the Democrat side of things, running for state senate in the Illinois 56th district. March 17th is just, man, it's coming.
It is coming up quick.
I had a pleasure to meet you during the tree lighting ceremony.
Yes.
It's all coming back to me.
I love that. Good for you.
You know, take me through just your thoughts, where you're at currently, before we get to know you, before we get into the meat of the conversation. How are you feeling day after the Super Bowl, and we're almost a month away from the big day?
I'm starting to feel the sense of urgency because the date's coming up, you know, and in engineering, we have project due dates, you know, or construction due dates. So I get it.
And those are real due dates.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I loved in your intro seeing the Clark Bridge because that was my very first project.
Was it really?
Yeah, I was on the team that built the bridge.
Well, that's fantastic. And I actually saw something on social media that it's one of the only cable bridges around in the air or in the country. It's one of a very few or how it's built.
Well, yes, it was the biggest project at the time in the state of Illinois. Wow. Yes.
That's cool.
Which, considering that we have Chicago up there, that's pretty impressive.
That really is. And just cool to hear that you were on that team a little bit, too.
Yes.
Well, and, you know, take me through this. You decided to throw your hat in the race for state senate. You're a part of the primary. What leads up to that decision? You know, before we go into the platform and the true why,
sure.
What's that conversation look like? What were you thinking?
Well, my youngest son, and I attended a town hall in Collinsville, and they were really sort of challenging the audience. Hey, you should consider to run. We need more people getting involved. And my son was elbowing me and said, Mom, you need to do this. Uh-huh. And I thought, I do have the experience. I do have the expertise. I can bring value. I really can. So I approached the members in attendance that were candidates, you know, and said, okay, I'm interested. What do I need to do? Let's do this. And that's how it started.
So there was never really a precursor story to this. It starts at a town hall.
Right.
What have you learned along the way, you know, since making that decision to put your name on the petitions and get those signatures? What have you learned, Victor?
I've learned that I have such great respect for the community that's out there doing all the heavy lifting, you know, for our local campaigns, our local political parties. You know, I think we all take it for granted along the way. It's just going to happen, and you don't understand all that goes into it. And it's a whole community of people that I had not been acquainted with, to be very honest with you. You know, I've always been involved on the policy side of legislation, but I wasn't on the campaign side.
Take me through the people you've gotten to meet, because, you know, you have such a unique district, and I think all the candidates really in the Illinois side of the Metro East do, because it truly is so diverse from different viewpoints. And I still think the old blue-collar union worker's still alive in so many voters. I don't know. I'm not the expert here, you know, but I can see that just from some of the turnouts over the years covering this. And it's got to be fascinating to really encounter so many, you know, different thoughts, walks of life, but also I'm sure to hear that really, I'm sure some of the same issues are, you know, the issues they face are pretty much the same, just on a different side of the coin.
Exactly. We do have a really diverse district. And what's cool is my background, I grew up economically insecure.
Okay.
You know, our family waited in line for the cheese, you know, the government cheese and the government butter, and we were very grateful for that. So I understand when people are challenged economically, and that follows you your whole life. Yeah. I don't care what difference it makes, you know, later in life. So as I'm going around and talking to people, it really depends on the generation who I'm talking to, right? When I'm talking to young people, they want job security. They want a leg up to that middle class that they've heard about. They want to have health insurance. When I talk to those who are close to retirement age, they also want health care. They want to affordably retire where they live and be able to stay in their own homes. And so it's the same, but it's a little bit different, depending on what stage in life you're in. And Alton in particular, I started my career here.
Wow, yeah.
And I saw how strong the union was here. And I saw how strong the industry was here. And I see how we haven't been able to keep that pace going, right? And it's a variety of reasons. But what I can bring to Springfield is understanding that process and understanding what it meant back in 92 when the bridge, 92 and 93 when I was on the bridge, and today looking back at what's happened over the years. We've got to look at what we're doing for our communities, that it is sustainable and that it is lifelong. We've got to look long term. We're getting too transactional with everything that we're doing, meaning what is this going to do right now for us instead of what's it going to do for the next generation?
Well, and see, that's a really fascinating, component of this too, because, I get a lot of press releases on different viewpoints on, how this should go and how if I was the janitor of a different elementary school, all those different things.
Sure.
And to really to hear that, next generational question, what's that impact look like? Does it fix it now? Great. But what's that look like in the next couple of years, or what's that look like for my grandkids or their kids?
Right.
That's a fascinating component. And when you're talking with, your potential voters, or you're talking with folks that are getting ready to sign the petitions, or just people you meet in the community, is it that concern for them too was on their mind is the first question. And then the follow-up would be, is affordability the biggest issue you're hearing right now, or is it something different that you're hearing affect the 56 district voters?
Well, I'm hearing both actually: affordability, rent, mortgage, groceries, healthcare, all the costs of things. I had a young gentleman say, my tire blew out. I need my car to get to my job. I didn't have enough money to buy a new tire, so I had to go and get a crappy tire to put on my car. I hope it lasts until I get my next check. I grew up like that. I understand what that's like, but when we're talking about long term, when I explain to them the fact that we used to look at things that way, we did. They get it. They do get it. And they wish that somebody was there fighting for them. I will tell you, a lot of people no longer have confidence or trust in those who are making our laws. I'm not saying it's totally justified. I'm just saying they're not seeing the impacts that are helping them at home, right? So it's just based on the evidence that they're seeing. And so I want to help restore the trust in those who are legislating policy and laws for people back home. I want them to know that if you send me up there, I do have your best interests in mind.
That's fascinating too. And that's where I was really going with the first kind of part of meeting the different voters, because it's so diverse. Does that come up a little bit where it's not really a matter of if you're a Republican, a Democrat, if you are running as a Tea Party candidate, or you name it? It's just there's a trust gap.
Yes. One of the things with my industry, I'm a civil engineer, and I belong to the American Society of Civil Engineers. And one of the things you have to do is you have to agree to the Code of Ethics. That is first and foremost. If you're a member, you abide by the Code of Ethics. And we're hard on each other in our profession. Yeah. We hold each other to that Code of Ethics. A lot of professions don't quite do it to that same degree, but in our profession we do. And so when I say I am going to do something, like when I said I was going to run, I'm running. This is not just I'm saying I want to do it. I want to affect change. And so when I talk to voters, especially young voters, we had a game night in Granite City at Board Gamery.
Okay.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I couldn't believe the turnout. And they were all Gen Zs,
That's cool.
And several came up and said, I'm not registered to vote, but I am going to register to vote, and I'm going to vote for you. Because they understand, once you talk to them and help them to understand the importance of staying engaged, getting engaged, that they do have a say. Yeah. They can make a difference. So many people think, well, it doesn't matter. I can't make a difference. Yes, you can. We all can. I can make a difference. That's why I'm getting involved. Was I before involved in politics? No. But I see the value that my experience and my expertise can bring down home here. here in Southern Illinois.
Well, and follow up to that too is, I'm sure that there's political burnout right now too, and it doesn't really. That's not a partisan statement. I feel like that's across the board. People are probably just not saying everyone, but just when's it's just what's next on the news kind of question.
Right.
How is it difficult for you when you're going around and campaigning to differentiate with your potential voter of the federal side of things going on right now and what you can do on a statewide position for the community?
It is something that I find I constantly have to remind people because they are so attuned to what's happening federally, but then help them to understand what we have the power to do at the state level, which is profound, but we can't change everything when it comes to federal. I'll give you an example though of when it's really important on the state side to affect what's happening federally. When the levees were remapped early on, many, many years ago, FEMA remapped, and basically our levees were no longer able to withstand a 100-year event, right? The Corps of Engineers said it's going to take 40 years to get those levees up to par to meet the 100-year event. Wow. 40 years. So what the counties did, Madison County, St. Clair County, and Monroe County, they got together. Bipartisan, by the way. They were not all Democrats. It's 2 Democrats and a Republican. And they decided to pass a sales tax to get the funding to themselves improve the levees to meet that 100-year event. They were able to do it in 10 years. So that was a federal ruling, a federal decision, a national decision that affected us locally. All those warehouses you see on 270 on either side, they're there today because the state and the local leadership reacted collaboratively to address it.
And I'm glad we're stopping on this point for the break, and we're going to come back and circle back to that because, speaking of factories and speaking of, union jobs, and it's great to know those impacts that what a statewide legislator body can make and really just where your role comes into play. Let's talk about, when we come back, the Alton Steel issue a little bit because I know that that was on your mind, and we'll talk about a couple of more issues too. It's 1022, state of the race. I keep saying 2025, 2026, I'm still, stuck in this mode. We're getting ready for the March 17th primary with Marsie Geldert-Murphey. She's a candidate on the Democratic side of things for state senate in Illinois' 56th district. More conversation next.
Struggling with depression that just won't go away? At Precision TMS, we offer a non-invasive, drug-free treatment designed to target the areas of the brain linked to mood regulation. Using FDA-cleared transcranial magnetic stimulation, gentle magnetic pulses help reactivate underperforming brain circuits without surgery or sedation. Many patients experience real relief, even after other treatments haven't worked. Our experienced team provides personalized care every step of the way. Contact Precision TMS today to see if TMS therapy is right for you.
Accidents happen in a heartbeat, but lives change forever. Whether it's a car crash, workplace injury, medical malpractice, or wrongful death, you don't have to face the consequences alone. Keith Short and Associates brings over 33 years of experience and a reputation for fighting fiercely for your rights. For relentless representation that you can trust, call Keith Short and Associates at 618-254-0055 today for a free consultation.
Do you need to declutter your space? Time to call me, the Queen of Junk. Since 1993, we have grown to be the leader in residential, commercial, and property management junk removal. At Sparks Junk Removal, we are eco-friendly. We recycle, donate, or repurpose items back into our community. Trash is our last resort to the landfill. Plus, with our all-inclusive service, our crews handle everything from labor to lifting and landfill fees. Give us a call or visit our website, sparksjunkremoval.net, to reclaim your space today.
Macias Insurance Agency, providing quality products with extremely competitive prices. As an independent provider, we source multiple companies to offer the best rates possible, covering auto, home, business, and life insurance. Our goal is to provide quality service that meets and exceeds customer expectations. You can rest easy knowing the Macias team is working round the clock to ensure that both you and the most important parts of your life are covered. Our qualified professionals make the insurance process easy so you can live carefree and focus on what matters most. Visit MaciasInsuranceAgency.com today to find out what our team can do for you.
What's up? It's Mike Keith. What's up, bro? What's good, my guy? Back to spotlight other amazing alumni and how they discovered their path at Lewis and Clark. Let's jump into it. This is Dwight Wirtz, president of Wirtz Welding and Tank Service, the nation's premier distributor of tank trailer parts. Dwight has been an outspoken and long-time supporter of the college and is the current chairperson of Lewis and Clark Board of Trustees. Oh, and he's a Lewis and Clark grad.
I'm Dwight Wirtz, and I am a trailblazer.
Throughout all life stages, you need someone in your corner, guiding you on your health and wellness journey. At OSF Healthcare, that's your primary care provider. Your OSF primary care provider is there for every stage of life. Find a provider today at osfhealthcare.org/primary.
Daily Show, State of the Race 2026. We're in with candidate for state senate on the Democratic side of things in the 56th district of Illinois, Marsie Geldert-Murphey. And, take me through a little bit more of your platform. What you're really running on for voters. And I know we're going to touch on Alton Steele here in a couple of minutes, but really want to give you that time to
Absolutely.
To air that out and make sure we talk about it.
My three key issues are opportunity, which is about infrastructure and what infrastructure does. You build infrastructure, it helps good paying, union paid jobs, and it also improves the small businesses that benefit from that infrastructure. Second is public education. I want a safe, healthy place where students can go to enrich themselves and be set up for success, and parents know their children are safe and can go to work. Mm-hmm. And lastly, healthcare. We have got to bridge the gap that is being, put in place by the national clawing back on Medicare. We have to make sure that we take care, especially our elderly, our disabled, and our veterans. We got to take care of our community with our health care shortfalls that are being inflicted on us nationally.
Well, and if it's okay, can we talk about your experience with the healthcare system?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
And I don't want to put you on the spot at all if you don't.
No, I think it's a good example. I have been able to see both sides. Growing up, we did not have good health insurance. Luckily, I have union health insurance. My husband's in the Teamsters 916. In 2016, I was in Washington, D.C. I was at a fly-in for ASCE. I'd just gone and met with my state representative, was headed back to the hotel. I was in a terrible elevator accident. I don't remember anything about it. I was unconscious when they found me, and I was in a coma for 8 days. I ended up being in the hospital for several months. I had to learn to eat, sleep, walk, talk, the whole thing all over again. I've had 9 surgeries on my spine. I've got a new knee over a process. I would be bankrupt today if I did not have that good union insurance. If that had happened to me while I was growing up with my family where we did not have good health insurance, we would not be where we are today. So I understand what that's like. Not only to be able to afford the health care you need to recover from such a devastating accident, but to know that you can get groceries and you can have your kids taken care of, and, life goes on. Rough, but it goes on without trying to do the day-to-day things that you need to pay for. There's a lot of people who can't do that. I'm very blessed.
Yeah, 1,000%. And, I'm sure that there's so many people that are going to watch this or are watching this now or listening to it that have connected to that, maybe don't have that insurance, and there's so many people that I know, and this is just a off the, personal thing, is that they've had to decide, do I pay for, the insurance this year whenever, they're small business owners or,
right.
You never know. And
right.
It does happen.
Do I fill this prescription or do I get groceries?
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
Going, into back to Alton, this steel mill closure, Alton Steel, it was Laclede, now Alton Steel. That's a big deal that rocked a lot of families. And speaking of groceries and speaking of bills, I'm sure that That's front of mind on those workers as they're
Absolutely.
still trying to, find employment. And, in your position now, you're, not in office yet, but, if you were, in office and this happens, what's your thought, what's the way to tackle this and what's the way to help the workers?
Well, the news of Alton Steel was devastating. It really made me sick to my stomach when I heard it. And quite frankly, even the industry that I'm in, this affects us, civil engineering. So I immediately got on the phone. I called, I've got connections at the Department of Economic Development. I said, hey, what's available? What grants are available? What can we do? I talked to Mary Lamy with the Bi-State Freight.
She's been on the show a couple times.
She's amazing. And I said, hey, what's going on? What can we do? What can we help? Where can we go? And I also called local and county leadership and said, where can we go with this? What are some options? The fact of the matter is that I am a collaborator. That is my career, is collaboration. As a civil engineer, you have to work with the owner, whether that be city, state, county, private, even in development side, industry, industrial. We also work with the stakeholders, the public, right? We work with the agencies that oversee the natural resources that are impacted by this. So we have to work together with everybody. We have to. That's part of the process. And that's what needs to happen here, as far as I'm concerned. This is a powerhouse in Alton when it comes to freight and logistics. We have an inland waterway, that beautiful resource, the Mississippi River. We have 6 Class 1 railroads that have access here. We have a great bridge that I was part of building and an interstate system that thankfully the last generation built for us. We have everything in place. We are a day's drive away from all the industrial centers around when you talk about Kansas City, Columbus, Nashville, Chicago. This is a powerhouse here. So if we get it together and collaborate, we can make something happen here that is not only going to reverse course for Alton, it's going to reverse course for the whole region, and it's going to be a long-lasting solution that's not just for this generation, but for future generations. We need to look at this solution holistically. We can't be short-sighted moving forward, and we need to move quickly at the same time.
Before I let you go, what's your final thought right now as it sits, just for a prospective voter out there, that any information that you'd like to get out before the March 17th primary?
Oh, thank you, CJ. I really appreciate that. So if anybody wants to know more about me, they can go to my website, www.marsie.illinois.info. And I can always use more donations. Pennies and dimes and nickels and dollars are appreciated to keep this moving forward. I also need volunteers, and I would appreciate everyone's vote, because if you want, I was told by a client I'm a bulldog with class. So if you want someone who's empathetic but has a strong voice and will defend your rights in the State House, you need to vote for me.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
We'll take a quick break, and we'll come back with more of this, more conversations next on our daily show as we wrap up this Monday morning.